Hello, my name is Codemaster Jamal, and I'm an indie game developer. I am most known for my 3D monster collecting game, Virtual Monsters, and my 2D turn-based RPG, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate End. Today, I'm going to be doing a review of my music. For the past decade, I've been making music on and off for the most part, but within the past, I'd say 6 years, it's been non-stop. Truth of the fact is, I've been making music for over a decade now, and I just decided to make a video showcasing the music I've made over a decade. I'm going to be starting in 2015, all the way up until 2025. So for people that have been waiting for sort of a Virtual Monsters update, I can't show off too much, but I can show off some music that will be coming out for Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 4. I know people have been waiting for an update for Virtual Monsters for a while. I'm sorry about that. I can't entirely show off anything right now at the moment, but this is the best I can do. I can show you off some music that hasn't been released yet, but fortunately I have a way of protecting my music before it's released, and that should take care of a lot of things. I'm going to be making another video about how I released 3 albums in 1 year. This video sort of relates to that video, but this video is more importantly about how I released music over the past decade. Let's start off with a little bit of my musical background. I know it sounds crazy, but at one point I actually used to be a rapper called It wasn't like long-lived for a long time, because I realized the precautions of being a rapper and that type of thing. So I sold out. I'll admit, I sold out. I didn't want to be a rapper anymore, but like I still respect the genre, and it's not just that, but the rap game changed a lot on me. That's partially why the hip-hop community hates me a lot. That among other things, you know. And it wasn't that I didn't like rap, it's just that I wanted to actually learn how to make music. A lot of it had to do with things that was going on in my community. My family had money, so I was sort of like outcasted just because of that type of thing. It was a bunch of things, dude, that was going on in my neighborhood. Basically, they didn't like us because we had money, and that was basically where it started from. I couldn't hang out with other black kids. Eventually I did. But, you know, we all had something in common at the end of the day. We just fight over trivial things back then. I did make music back then, but the only reason why I'm not counting that is because I don't have any of those recordings. My MySpace is still around, but I still don't have any of those recordings. Otherwise, I'd show it to you. Back when I used to like role play on Galladoria Online. Like, yeah, like I was a rapper, but like I didn't fit like the stereotype of being a rapper, and I had my own reasons. I'll make another video just to make some music related videos. I'll make another video about like why I stopped rapping, and like, you know, I still respect the art form, that type of thing. But eventually, yes, I sold out. I end up getting into rock music eventually. I wanted to learn how to actually make music at one point, because I was getting really into making video games in high school. And I was at the point where, like, if I want to make a video game, I need sound effects and I need music. So, like, I didn't know how to make music. And more importantly, I didn't want to use somebody else's music and suffer things like copyright strikes. Because during that time period, I want to say Warner Brothers and UMG, Universal Music Group, they got into YouTube and they started taking down a lot of content. I had actually made like a music video for the Boondocks using the song Whoop That Trick from the movie Hustle and Flow. That video got taken down, and it's a lot of different things to it. Yeah, that time period comes from like 2006 to 2010. It wasn't something I tried to do, consciously speaking, but unconsciously speaking, I kind of slipped out of it. Like, I still listen to hip-hop. Like, back then, the hip-hop I was listening to nowadays is considered to be lo-fi hip-hop. I had friends around school, so I got into heavy rock and started listening to stuff like Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers, those type of things. Essentially, I wanted to learn how to play bass. I got into Rage Against the Machine and a lot of other things. A lot of like funk rock, that type of stuff. That's what got me into like metal and those type of things. But then, like, I had friends who were more into like the more brutal stuff, like Slipknot. Slipknot was coming out when I was in 7th grade. So, you know, like, I remember walking down the hallway, a bunch of goth kids trying to scare me because, you know, I was a Christian kid. So that was another reason why I got bullied. But, you know, we're not going to talk about that today. That's in the past. We're not going to talk about it. The point being is that there's a time period from 2000 and I'll say 2011, because I graduated high school in 2010. And yeah, I wrote songs, but a lot of those songs were ripoffs of System of a Down. I never released it. I was learning how to play bass and learning how to play guitar at the time, so I was using a program called Tux Guitar. So I wrote a song back in 2010, but I never released it. I didn't give it away, but I showed it to like a bandmate. I ended up joining bands. I joined rock bands, metal bands in Miami, because the thing about playing in Miami is that if you weren't into rap, they were into heavy metal. So like a lot of my influences are pretty much like hip hop, rap, and heavy metal. That's it. Like, you know, deathcore and those type of things. That's all that was. There wasn't like a lot of reggae bands. There weren't a lot of R&B bands. There's a lot of Latin music bands. I just wasn't going to be getting into that type of genre, that type of feel. But, you know, essentially, because that's my area, you're a product of your environment, that's what I got influenced by. And I'm actually happy for that. So I kind of took all that influence and I put that into making music for video games. Because I was surrounded by so many different types of music. You know, I was into like a lot of African music. I was into a lot of folk music, a lot of old traditional music, a lot of classical classical music, a lot of jazz. I was into a lot of different types of music growing up that overall all those different styles kind of influenced me a lot, and that's what got me into like making music for video games. So at some point I did play in a rock band from 2011 to 2014. I was still like in college at the time. Yeah, so there's that time period between 2011 and 2014 I played in bands. I'm not gonna be showing off their music, so that's why I say I've been making music for a decade, because I officially started writing my own music when I took a class in college called Songwriting 101. I took Songwriting 101 and basic music theory, and that's when I really started to understand music a lot better. Even when I played bass, I was guessing it. You know, I was guessing it the entire time. I was guessing the keys, guessing the notes, guessing the rhythm, when to play my part. I was always a little off because of that. But like I was dead on. People couldn't notice, but they probably did after a while. And that's something I realized after a while. Like, yeah, I was good, but I wasn't like, I played shows, but like not a lot of them. And I can't say that was the reason why, but it definitely contributes to the reason why. I also wasn't like, they also wasn't feeling, you know, me being the black bass player in a metal band. You know, I'm also a Christian. You know, a lot of these bands are like death metal bands. It just wasn't flowing the way how they wanted. And let's just say they turned that down. But it's fine, you know, supposedly I influenced mumble rap or something like that, the way how these people are dressing or something like that. Who knows, right? I did it, been there, done that. But that wasn't really my style of music, and that's not why I got into music. I got into music because I wanted to make music for video games. It was kind of a waste of time, but I learned a lot about music. And the reason why I wanted to play in other bands is because I wanted to get better at music. So long story short, we're gonna spend about 30 seconds to maybe a minute and a half listening to each one of these songs, and we're gonna go through all the music I made from 2015 all the way up until 2025. So I've been making music for roughly over a decade now, which is why we're starting with my first songs. Even though, yeah, I wrote earlier songs, a lot of them were rip-offs of System of a Down and like other bands and that type of thing. That's why I say not to study too much theory, but that was before that. You know, lyrically speaking, I ripped off System of a Down. I couldn't rip off their playing, but like lyrics, like I would take their lyrics and I would just like, okay, instead of this word, I put like a different word just to get better at writing lyrics, but it didn't help out that much. It actually didn't teach me anything about writing lyrics, and it wasn't until I actually learned from like a professional musician, I started surrounding myself around professionals, that I actually learned how to make music, and I started taking it serious. So we're gonna go ahead and go through a list of music that I've made over the past decade. And the first song actually starts with music that I made in a music lab. Ironically, this song is called Club Song, but now it's called the Codemaster Jamal Show, or Welcome to the Codemaster Jamal Show. So we're gonna go ahead and listen to this for about 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, so that song was released back in 2015. That's my first song. The next song is a song I wrote on acoustic guitar. Well, we called it Acoustic Song, but the truth of the fact is, it's actually named after a girl I knew in college. I don't like talking about it. College was a very depressing time period in my life. I don't like talking about it too much. But this song is actually called Erica. It's released in 2016. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna listen to this song. Yeah, don't want to talk about that song too much. It's a very depressing time for me. But basically, that was the last song I released in 2016. Most of this music you can find on my SoundCloud. That song is actually labeled something else called Acoustic Song. It's a long story. I shouldn't smoke pot. Long story short. As for 2017, I have no music. I didn't release any music that year. People started hating on me a lot. So like, you know, people started embarrassing me on Instagram. It's a bunch of different things. But basically, I got back into making music. And at this point, I started making the music that I like to make. This song here is actually called LMMS Trap Tutorial. I changed it from, it used to be called Ivory at one point, but some people took that offensive because I play the keys. So I went from calling it Ivory to Circle of Fifths, but it's still just a song that I made using a tutorial for LMMS on YouTube. Because at this point, by 2018, I had taken 2 semesters of programming. I took C++ and Java. At that point, I was ready to start making video games. And that's all it was. So this is actually that song. But yeah, that was actually the LMMS trap tutorial. Yeah, basically that's not really a real song. That's not even a song that I wrote. I sort of changed it a tad bit from the tutorial, and that's why I never released it on like a major platform. I'm not trying to make money from the song. And my SoundCloud is not exactly my best representation of my work. When I release music on SoundCloud, a lot of the time it's music that people aren't meant to hear. A lot of it isn't even good music. I'll even admit to that. It's not my best work. I would say Virtual Monsters, the soundtrack, that's my best work. I'll talk about Virtual Monsters Part 3 in another video, but for now we're going to go ahead and go on to the next song that I released that year in 2018. So, you know, this song, it's a little cringy. The song sampling guitar is a little cringy, but like I said, I like to experiment with music. At this point in my music creativity, my music log, and my musical journey, I'm done experimenting with music. I might do a little bit of experimentation. That song isn't necessarily good for people's ears. It kind of hurts people's ears. It's definitely something interesting. It's definitely something new. And that's all it was. It may not necessarily sound good, but it was something new. I never made music like that. By 2019, I started working on my own music. I started working on the music for Virtual Monsters. I put out like a video for Virtual Monsters, and I started working on the music for Virtual Monsters. Almost about to finish Virtual Monsters. There's like 2 major hurdles I have to complete in order to finish Virtual Monsters. This first song that I wrote is called Circuit Mafia. As I said before, I'm very influenced by hip hop, very influenced by rap music. I like a lot of funk, specifically gangster funk, earlier styles of hip hop. So that's what this song is actually influenced by. So we got this song here. It's called Circuit Mafia. But basically, you get the point. At this point, I started putting out my absolute best work. Here's actually another song that I made in 2019 called The Mystic Forest. This is actually when I started to really get into my craft as a musician. And that's basically what happened. 2019, I started working on Virtual Monsters. Really, I've been working on Virtual Monsters since 2017, but that's a different story. It's been almost 8 years now, 8 years in the making, working on a video game. So that was actually 2020. I didn't release any music in 2021. However, in 2022, I dropped actually the first soundtrack for Virtual Monsters, which is a 10-song album. And I wasn't trying to make it a hip-hop album, but due to peer pressure, you know, my family, they didn't want any rock songs on it. They just wanted a hardcore hip-hop album from you, basically. And that's what it ended up becoming, Virtual Monsters Part 1. Not Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 1, but Virtual Monsters Part 1. Now, I'll further explain that to you. This is the best song, I guess, I have on that album, but this is a song that people like the most from that album. It's called Demi Town. Yeah, that will be the closest I'll get to being a rapper anymore. That's the closest. You know, I even told it before, like, I want to make beats. But it's a different story. I'm not young anymore. You know, that's all it is. That's basically the theme song for Virtual Monsters to a certain degree. It's the most popular song on that album, outside of the Mystic Forest. After that, we have another song. Actually, we're going to listen to it. I'm playing it off my phone because I actually have it now. Like, this is actual music I released. It's professionally made music. So that's why I'm playing it off my phone at this point. But obviously, this is a YouTube video, so it's going to be edited up so that way it makes more sense to the audience and that type of thing. Yeah, let's do this. This song is called Tamer Fight. I didn't release any music in 2023, but I did release music in 2024. I released a double album in 2024, which would be Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 2 and Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 3. Influenced by System of a Down, they had the album Hypnotized and Mesmerized. So I kind of want to do the same thing in that aspect, being influenced by them and that type of thing. My music influences are everywhere. I grew up in the 90s. They were doing the whole rap rock hip hop thing. Now we're going to get into the very end of the video, which is 2024 up until 2025. We're talking about Virtual Monsters Part 2. I also released Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 1 and Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 2 and Virtual Monsters Soundtrack Part 3 all within the same year. There's actually like an interesting story behind it. We're gonna play my favorite song off that album, which is Virtual Beach. Okay, so That's Virtual Beach, and that's off of Virtual Monsters soundtrack part 2. We're going to look for a song that's off of Virtual Monsters soundtrack part 1. This song here is called Lake Infinity, and this is off of Virtual Monsters soundtrack part 1. This is actually like my most played song. You guys can't see the stats for how many times this song has actually been played, but this has actually been featured on college radio. I don't collect any royalties from it, but it's been played on satellite radio right now, but I'm not collecting any royalties from it. I got to do some things from my bank before I can actually collect royalties from that aspect of my music. But by the time I actually start collecting royalties from it, they'll probably stop playing my song. As I wanted to say before, I got really influenced by jazz, so that's why this song sounds like this, and that's why it got really popular. Okay, so that's enough of that song. Well, that was Lake Infinity, and this leads me to the very last of this episode today. As you can see, it's getting a little darker out. I won't be able to record for too long because the sun's coming down. We're in winter, so the sun's coming down a lot sooner. I won't have enough sunlight in this video, so we're going to get to the very last song, which is going to be a song that will be released this year. I haven't officially released it yet, but for people that like Virtual Monsters and you guys have been waiting to hear some new music from Virtual Monsters, and this is basically going to be released later on in the year. I've actually already took the time out to protect my music because I'll talk about it in another video about how someone stole my music, but it happens, and they got me nasty, but it happens. This song is called System Sector. Not too much, not too much, not too much. Not bad, right? So that's going to be on album part 4, which would be the last album for Virtual Monsters. The reason why I have so many songs is because, yes, it's a video game, but to a certain degree I'm creating a world, and I wanted to give the game a certain aesthetic. I'll talk more about it in another video. At some point, if you're watching this video, I'll link that video that I'm speaking to in this video as to why I released 3 albums in 1 year. But yes, that's going to be the song released for 2025. It's just a little glimpse for Virtual Monsters part 4. If you want to support me as a creator, please feel free to sign up for my website at mw-industries.com. I could really use it. You can also join the Discord and join our discussion on Discord. I'm working on a game called Tales of Armadaria TCG. I started working on it halfway through 2024, so I'm hoping to finish that this year, and I'm hoping to also release Virtual Monsters Part 4 this year, and I'm also hoping to release Virtual Monsters by the end of the year. It takes a lot of money to finish my MMO. I could really use the help. The best way you guys can help me if you don't have the money is to sign up for my website. You can also support me by buying merch off the merch store. I could greatly appreciate that. I'm going to be putting more merch on the merch store, especially after the release of Tales of Armadaria TCG. So that's going to be another thing. Thank you for that as well. If you'd like to see more content from me, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also share this video if you really like it. I greatly appreciate anybody that helps me keep making games. Till next time, this is Codemaster Jamal, and I'm signing out.